Hello, SoloMoms. It's a pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Pamela Ellis, also known as the Education Doctor, who today shares her expertise on getting your child into college. Dr. Pamela is a highly sought after speaker who empowers parents to guide their teens confidently into higher education. Listen to the end to grab a free copy of Dr. Ellis's College Success Blueprint and avoid the overwhelm that comes with researching and deciding and financing your kids' college educations. So visit Dr. Ellis, Dr. Pamela Ellis, PAMELAELLIS, LinkedIn profile. I'll put the link below and enter Blueprint 25 to get a free download. That's the College Success Blueprint. Don't forget, it's the free gift from Dr. Ellis to listeners of SoloMoms Talk. Thank you.
In this battle of life, it's hard to keep your head above the water. So win this fight.
My guest today is Dr. Pamela Ellis, doctor, CEO, and mom. Welcome, Dr. Pamela.
Thank you. Hello. I really am excited to join you today.
Yes, thank you for coming and talking to us on SoloMoms Talk.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So before we get into what you do, could you tell us
Mhm.
who is Pamela Ellis?
Absolutely. So, you know how many moms struggle with feeling overwhelmed with preparing their teen for college and just not knowing where to start? Well, what I do is I partner with those busy moms to help their teen find a college that feels like home without overpaying is what I do. And we give them a clear roadmap to success in terms of just what to do step by step. And the results of our work has been that 95% of their teens have been admitted to their top choice colleges and received
Hmm.
an average of $75,000 in scholarships. And so, one of my moms, Joy, who's a solo mom, she actually had a son. And in working with her, she had a very demanding corporate career. And so, with our guidance, she was able to save countless hours and also be assured that he would launch successfully and be empowered to make the decision around college. And one of the biggest things, Jen, was just facilitating for her what the process would look like to let go, because that, is
Mm.
probably one of the biggest challenges is letting go. And
Yeah.
so enough about me for just 1 second. I do want to acknowledge you and just say thank you again so much for having me on your show. And for those of you who are listening, as I have listened to several episodes, you're just really lucky to have Jan as your host because she just gives so generously. And so, to all of you who are listening, wherever you are, I want to make sure you do go ahead and give the show a 5-star rating. And so,
Oh,
thank you
thank you.
so much, Jan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Pamela. I appreciate that. Now, there are two things I want to address in what you said.
Yeah.
And one of them is the letting go part.
Yeah.
And you can envision a solo mom who's raised her children, and now the child, it's time for them to go off to college, most likely.
Yeah.
And she
Mhm.
hanging onto the suitcase or trying to follow them, right? So
Yeah.
so give us some input on how
Mhm.
to let go, really, because that let go process is going to start maybe from high school, right?
It really does because quite frankly, you start, sensing already that it's going to be very soon that they're leaving. And one of the things that I often suggest is starting to have dates with yourself
Mm,
and making sure that not everything is always about the team. And
mhm.
that's something that even, myself as a solo mom had to also do. Because after my divorce and, no longer having that identity as a wife, it was still a challenge to, not be as wrapped up in my kids as well and trying to live
Right.
their life, but also recognizing that there are things I need to still do for me and doing them just for me without feeling guilty. Because I think
Yes.
as moms, we oftentimes carry guilt that, it has to be all about the kids.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And that is probably the biggest problem with us letting them go off to college because we're just too invested in them, right? And we feel they need
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And even with, the whole college process, even, letting them own the process is something that
Mm,
we talk a lot about in our program, that it's the team who owns it. And, as moms, as much as we may want to, do it for them in a sense, when we let go, it empowers them. And I think it
yes.
gives us that extra measure of assurance that, yes, when they do leave, they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. Because if we're
Yes.
doing all the enabling and doing it for them while they're in high school, I think not only can we risk them resenting us or resenting the fact that we did that, but just also that they won't be able to launch successfully and thrive because they don't know
Yes.
how to do things independently.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much so. I'm going to touch on that a little bit later on, but
Yeah.
I also want to talk about so you're a mom and you're
Mhm.
raising these children and they want to go to college and maybe that's what you want for them as well. What is the first thought process in that, especially if you don't have money?
Oh my goodness. I think the first thought process is what's going to be best for them.
Mm,
And I know that may sound like, the obvious, but oftentimes I think that when we think about college, we're so focused on the college, the brand
mm-hmm.
name, as opposed to what's going to be best for my child. And
Right.
so if we think about that, then that leads us to looking at the college landscape differently. And
Mm-hmm.
so for some kids, it's about being in a place where they can still have community, build relationships with others, perhaps have relationships with professors as well in terms of doing research or even having the classroom experience where they feel seen and heard. And
Yes.
so that's going to bring up a totally different thought around the colleges that would be a good fit
Mm-hmm.
versus
Mm-hmm.
if they're more pre-professional, and thinking about I need this because I want to do a particular career, then that
Right.
also brings up a different set of colleges.
Right.
And regardless of the college, one thing I love to make sure that moms know is that only about 20% of families are full pay.
Mm.
And so when you look at those numbers online, those
Mm-hmm.
sticker
Mm-hmm.
prices, I mean, very few people are paying that.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it's easy to be part of that 80%, that
Yes.
80% who are getting monies for college and able to, do it in such a way that their child also doesn't come out with a lot of debt or that they come out with a lot of debt themselves.
Right.
And
Right.
so there are just so many opportunities out there, as well as several colleges that could be a great fit. for their team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not
Mm-hmm.
about a single brand name college that has a big sticker or a big name that has to be the only college that they can seek.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think sometimes though that maybe we instill our own fears
We
into
do.
the process, and maybe that, if we could handle that a little better. Can you expand on that for us?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Because that's something that I often talk with moms about is the role that their own backstory plays
Mm-hmm.
in terms
Mm-hmm.
of where their child even ends up going to college. One of the
Mm-hmm.
questions that we ask during our initial process is asking the mom, what was her experience in high school and how she came to decide what she would do after high school.
Mm.
And that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes, Jan, because in so many cases, if the mom has had a particular experience with the guidance, with the school counselor, that
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes will shape her child's experience with the school counselor, even if it's a totally different school type. And
Right.
so I do talk very candidly about, just how their own backstory influences their kids' decisions and even the mindset as well. So if you actually say, my kid isn't going to get any money for college, you know something? You're right. They won't, because you're going to be taking those steps that's going to lead to that result the moment you speak it. And so we do talk about that just to, make sure that, moms are aware and very conscious of it in terms of, even things like test scores. They'll say things like,
Yeah.
my kid is not a good test taker or they're not a good writer. And we say, hey, when you come into this session, you are a great writer. And even if, your test scores don't reflect your best, you don't have to submit them. So
Right.
no
Right.
worries, because we want every student to build their confidence throughout our program. And that's the key thing that's going to support
Right.
them. And we're partnering, with the mom to also ensure that they're reinforcing that so that they do
Right.
have the confidence.
Yes. Okay. All right. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. And following up on that, can you walk us through the
yeah.
process on how you help moms and, as an extension, help kids with getting into college and getting financing for college?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have programs that are every grade year of high school. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a combination of both meetings with the student one to one and also family meetings. And that's to really make sure that the mom and the student are on the same page as
Mm.
we're working together. And with that process, it's, developing their application portfolio. So everything that they'll be submitting, developing the right list of colleges, which always starts with the student. And then we coach them on writing essays as well that will help them to stand out. And with
Mm-hmm.
the parents, along with the student as well, is the financial aid process. Because oftentimes, what moms may not know is that that application starts with the student. So it's the student who authorizes the mom to input her information for the
Right.
financial aid. Because once the student is in college, they continue to get the financial aid information and to lead that process. And
Right.
so we work with both in terms of the financial aid piece. And for our scholarships, our students primarily get monies directly from the colleges. And we focus almost exclusively sometimes on that list so that they can have the opportunities for the most amount of money. So when I
Mm-hmm.
talked at the outset about 75,000 is the average for scholarships that students receive, that comes directly from the colleges. When they're
Okay.
applying for outside scholarships, we will work with them on their essays to apply to those outside scholarships. But
Mm-hmm.
because most of our students that we work with don't qualify for need based aid, we focus on the list because they can get money from colleges even if they do. Their
Right.
parents do make a lot of money.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And tell us how we can get in touch with you.
Absolutely, how you can get in touch with me. Well, one of the things that, I certainly want to do is something special for your audience since they all stayed to the very end of the episode. Um, and what I'm about to share is something that they're not going to be able to find anywhere else online.
Okay.
And what it's called is the College Success Blueprint. And
Hmm.
what this will do is help, moms learn step by step how to help their team with getting into their dream colleges without all the stress, overwhelm, and guesswork that typically comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that's included in the blueprint is also a communication guide so that they're not always having to talk about college. And
Right.
if they want to get this for absolutely free of charge, I invite them to send the word blueprint 25. And where I am most located is on LinkedIn at Dr.
Okay.
Pamela Ellis, Dr. Pamela, Pamela Ellis, Ellis. And so that's where they can reach me. And when they send the word blueprint 25, I'll personally send it over to them.
Oh, that's awesome. And so
Yeah.
I'll put the LinkedIn link in the show notes
Yes.
so people can
Thank
connect
you.
from there. Yeah, that's
Oh,
awesome.
good.
Now,
Thank you.
you think you were finished, didn't you? Um,
I'm not, right?
so I wanted to touch on the solo moms status, because as you know, this is a show directly geared to solo moms, and our stories can always help another solo mom. So if you could briefly explain as much as little as you want,
Mhm.
how did you become a solo mom, and what was your biggest struggle?
Wow. Well, there were a couple occasions when I was a solo mom. So, a solo mom through us living in separate cities. We had a commuter marriage at some
Mm-hmm.
point through career choices. So my spouse then at the time was working in another city across the country, and so at that point I was indeed a solo mom. And then on the second time around, it was through divorce.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And so,
Okay.
just to share, candidly, because I have spoken about this in other venues, is, part of it was being an entrepreneur and some of the challenges that come when you're trying to run a household and one spouse has decided to start their own business and the other one
Mm-hmm.
isn't necessarily on board with that. And so that's challenging because as an entrepreneur, especially starting out, there's always those financial ups and
Yes.
downs. So yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. And what is Dr. Pamela grateful for today?
What am I grateful for today? Oh my goodness,
Yes.
so much. I'm grateful that I still have an opportunity to have my own business.
Mm,
I'm grateful for being able to graduate from an entrepreneurship program today, and that's going to be